Welcome to the CMO Spotlight, and today we are interviewing Alex Cwirko-Godycki. He is the Chief Marketing Officer of Human Capital and the Head of Digital Marketing at Aon. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Amanda. It's great to be here. And you said the last name perfectly, so thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so to get started, tell me a little bit about what Aon does and what your role is there, and a brief synopsis of your career path getting there, including the 13 years that you've spent at Aon so far. I know we're all going to be so interested to hear your path and how you moved around within marketing at Aon.
Sure. It's a pleasure. So first, yeah, what is Aon? We're a global professional services firm. We have 50,000 people in 120 countries, and we do hundreds of things. But to kind of keep it simple and focused, we really organize around what we're doing to help clients in the area of risk capital, which includes things like reinsurance and commercial risk. And then what we're doing in the areas of human capital, which is where I focus on, and that includes our health, wealth, and talent practices, and primarily supporting HR organizations inside of clients. And then as far as my journey at Aon, yes, it's been 13 years. I've had a great run here and really enjoy working here. And I started as a senior manager of content marketing in one of our talent businesses focused on rewards, which is answering questions around how do you pay people and how much. And then from there, in that same business, went into a role focused on growth marketing and demand gen and marketing technology, and then eventually led marketing for that practice. And then from there, took on kind of a series of larger CMO roles in increasingly larger practices. But then about 2 years ago, was asked to lead digital marketing across the whole firm as well. So it's been an interesting run, and I've had a lot of opportunity to jump around to different parts of marketing and then different parts of the business, which has been great.
Definitely. And what advice do you wish that you'd gotten earlier in your career, or what advice would you give to a person starting in marketing now?
Yeah, I would say I've been really fortunate to have some great mentors at Aon, and one of the folks that really stuck out to me, Linda, told me a few years ago when I was sort of at the cusp of going from an individual contributor role into a leadership role. Said, Alex, you're really smart, you have lots of good ideas, but you're spending too much time pointing out problems and not enough time solving them. And if you want to be a leader, you got to focus on the solution. So yes, you can identify the problem, but are you coming to the table with some answers and some ideas on how to solve it? And that's really served me well and stuck with me.
Yeah, that is important, right? If we're only pointing out problems, we're not helping move things forward. So that is some solid advice. I like that.
And I think the sooner you get there as an employee, the farther you'll go.
Absolutely, no matter what role you're in, right? If you're in an
Yep,
individual contributor role or a leadership role, the company needs you to solve problems, right? So,
absolutely.
so we at Setup believe that everybody has a superpower. What do you think yours is?
Yeah, I think it's really about synthesizing different points of view across the business. So in a professional services environment, our consultants who are working with clients are also marketers and sellers, right? So they've got very strong opinions about what's resonating in the market and what people will care about. But often where they struggle is kind of bringing that down to earth and making it more approachable for the average buyer, right? Because they're kind of very technical and they know all the nuance and they know all the detail. And so, how do you kind of bring things down to earth, make it simple, and then also take a bunch of different opinions from across the business around any particular issue and kind of get it into something kind of concrete and easy for people to understand. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And then I think I've been fortunate over the years to be in a lot of roles where I spent a lot of time writing. And so also taking that not just into the spoken word, but putting it down on paper so that then you can use it in various marketing programs. So I think that's what I'm good at.
That's a powerful superpower for a marketer, for sure. Awesome. So, in terms of leadership, you talked about kind of making that jump at some point from individual contributor to more of a leadership role. So, where do you find inspiration for your team, or how do you help your team feel inspired? for the work?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, and this might sound a little, biased or self-serving, but I genuinely find working at Aon inspirational. We do so many different things around the world. And I think, particularly on our commercial risk side of the business, people might think of insurance as a pretty boring, esoteric topic. But when you start to understand the role that insurance plays in making sure that business around the world just runs,
Yeah.
and then the impact that capital flows can have in terms of solving issues around trade or AI adoption or climate transition, things like that. I mean, it's really powerful what we do. And then on the human capital side, you're talking about people, and the work that we do impacts how they get paid, what their benefits are, the fairness and the transparency of their pay. And so what I love, if you can look at my background, I love aeronautics, I love space. We have a space practice, right? And so if you're a colleague at this company who's passionate about something, usually we do something in that space. And if you can find that niche and get excited about it, I think it's very inspiring. And again, I know that sounds self-serving, but I genuinely believe that there's just so much cool stuff we're doing every day.
Well, you've definitely found the right home then, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the dream, is to be, just inspired by the work and be fulfilled by that daily. And yes, I was going to ask about the planes and spaceships and things behind you. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
What are the values that you demonstrate as a leader, and what values do you look for in others?
Great question. What's always been important to me is honesty and transparency with colleagues. I think understanding that everyone you're working with at this level is an adult. They deserve to be treated with respect, and that they also might need different things to be successful and understand what we're doing. But I've always believed in explaining to people why we're doing something, particularly if it's a change in direction or something new. Hey, we've made a business decision. We think this is the right thing for the business. Here's how we need to rally around that change and head in this direction. And then here's how you fit in.
Mhm.
And it's not just about being nice and honest to people, which I think is important, but I also think the context when you give it to people actually helps them perform better. So if they know why you're doing something, why they're being asked to do something, then I think there's a higher chance that they'll buy in and feel good about it, and then perform better.
Definitely.
And I just always start there.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good place to start. A good foundational approach. So, setup helps marketers thrive by bringing them together with the best people and resources. So, this often means that we connect brands and marketing agencies that can fill gaps in either capacity or capability. Um, you know, and because we live in that space in between brands and agencies, we have a unique perspective on that relationship. So, I want to ask you a couple of questions about agencies and how you work with them.
Sure.
How do you work with marketing agencies today?
Yeah, again, Aon's a big place, and we're in 120 countries. So we work with agencies of all different types in many locations. And I think of three things that really drive successful relationships. One is where an agency might be adding technical skills that we don't have. Maybe it's digital around web development, maybe it's creative around design. Then, where maybe we have some skills, but we don't have enough resource to deliver at scale like we're looking to in some places. And then also where you might want a creative partner to bounce ideas off of. And there's a risk of being too insular in your thinking. And so having that partner really helps. And there's lots of places, again, around the firm that we're doing that, and lots of different types of firms we're working with.
So, are there some marketing functions like that you typically would always outsource to an agency versus are there some functions that you would always want to keep internal? And you kind of touched on it, right? Where you're wanting inspiration or you want another expert, opinion in there, but are there different areas like branding versus paid media or something where you want to have that expertise coming from outside versus inside?
It's a great question. And maybe I'll answer with a bit of a cop out. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer, and I would never say that definitively that there's always something you should outsource or insource. But again, we're a really big company, so for us, it's all of the above. We work with PR agencies, we work with paid media, we work with creative agencies, we're working with digital agencies. So we have a bit of everything here. And obviously, sometimes it works better than others. But I would say that it really comes back to where I started. Where do you need augmentation of technical expertise, additional resources, and then do you have a really good partner that you trust that can help you make your ideas better? But I do think anywhere when I look at our best relationships and our highest quality work, I think it's often done in partnership with an agency and they're helping us take it to the next level, but it's never fully outsourced. We have somebody inside the firm that, let's say it's paid media. They understand paid media too. They can speak that language. They can hold the agency accountable, but maybe there are one or two people and we need 10 to get something done.
Right. I think that's key. I think successful agency relationships definitely start from a place of mutual understanding, I think. And when the client is just trusting the agency to go do things in a black box and they're not really engaged or involved or even understanding what's happening, I think that's where communications fall down and the end product isn't maybe what was expected, and all those problems arise. So I think what you've described is really ideal, right? Where you have some knowledge in-house and then you're able to augment that knowledge with another forceful team that's coming in, with expertise as well. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we did in my digital marketing role, which we started over about 2 years ago, we created a digital marketing center of excellence, and we have roles in that team that we call digital marketing strategy leads that are deployed in each of our regions, specifically to sit at that nexus point between our field marketing teams and the agencies. And sometimes they're doing project management. Sometimes it's about accountability. Sometimes it's about training and education. But they can help translate what our business is asking for to the agency, and then also help our teams hold the agency accountable and understand what the agency is trying to do.
I
So, I
love
mean,
that.
we literally created roles to address that need.
That's great. Yeah, smart. Smart. Okay, so for moving on to results, how do you show the value of marketing to your colleagues in the rest of the company? Whether that's your fellow C-suite or other marketing leaders. Obviously, Aon is huge, right? So there's lots of levels of folks that you're probably, wanting to understand the value that the marketing work is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We spent a lot of time working on this, and again, because Aon is big, we do have elements of the business that are B2B. That's most of it, but we have some that's B2B2C, and then some that's B2C. So the answer actually varies, and you can imagine in the parts of our business that are more, let's say, product focused, SaaS marketing or B2C, you have usually more sophisticated approaches to digital marketing and a lot more emphasis on cost per lead, how many leads we're generating, what's the return on those leads. And then in our advisory business, where you're dealing with big relationships with multinational companies, it's much more of a direct sales led engagement, right? And more relationship based. But so the answer varies, but when we try to simplify it, we focus on two big buckets: activity and impact. And there's a lot of value on the activity side of simply saying, what are we doing for the business? How many articles did we write? How many social media posts did we write? What is the number of page views on a website? And we've got so many tentacles that we're trying to support in the firm, and they're all looking for what is the level of support we're getting. So we do spend a lot of time on activity, but then you're trying to understand, is that activity translating into impact? And where I've seen it work the best is when you keep it simple. There's a lot of complicated metrics that you can generate around marketing,
Yes.
but when I think you focus on having a really good relationship with commercial colleagues and sort of asking very simple questions. What type of lead would make you excited to get up in the morning and pick up the phone? how do we get more of those leads? So that answers a question of what's a qualified lead, and then what are we doing to get more leads like that? So really marketing qualified leads, the conversion rate, and the revenue that falls out.
Yeah.
I think the more we focus on that, the clearer the picture gets.
Perfect. So, is there a campaign or a program, either in at Aon or maybe even in a previous role at another company, that taught you a ton, whether that's because it was a big flop or because it was a huge success?
Yeah. Okay. So if I go back, it might be about 10 years ago when I was still fairly new at Aon and transitioning from a role in content marketing to a role around demand gen and marketing tech. We had just implemented a new technology stack for a part of the business, and we were very excited to send out very sophisticated campaigns, starting with emails, lots of HTML, lots of pretty pictures, lots of infographics, lots of buttons. And we did that for a couple months, and it was just a big dud. Nothing happened. And so finally we said, what does a human want to see or want to hear? Well, they probably want something that's more personalized, more human to human. So we ditched all those emails and just went to plain text emails, very simple. Hi, we do this. We think we can help. Are you interested in a conversation? And it worked. And actually that part of the business is doing still similar things today, 10 years later. And there's a lot of,
Testament.
it looks very simple. There is a lot of sophistication behind that in terms of personalization, and we do a lot of industry-based marketing. So, inserting key details that are industry specific into those notes. But at the end of the day, simple was the lesson there. Keep it simple.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, what a testament 10 years later doing, really similar things because of the efficacy, that you've been able to prove, which is awesome. A
Yeah.
marketer's dream, man, a marketer's dream. Okay, so last section is just some fun questions of more about you. Is there a book or a quote or a band, a movie, something that inspires you, from pop culture or the media?
Um, I go to movies. I'm more of a movie guy than a book guy or a music guy, but I do like Top Gun's my all-time favorite.
Nice.
I don't know if that's inspirational. I just think it's cool. But I do like movies like Apollo 13, The Right Stuff. As you can tell, I like space exploration. But I think it's amazing they show kind of what you can do when people work together, and then like in the case of Apollo 13, problem solving in extreme situations. But I love all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It made me immediately think of that movie Hidden Figures.
Yeah,
It's similar, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's like these people coming together to make something really amazing happen. That's something real in history that happened. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, and actually something that people don't know about the Apollo missions is that it is the largest ever mobilization of people, not for war.
Wow, that's cool.
Several hundred thousand people in the US were part of the supply chain to make those missions happen.
Super cool.
A good
Yeah,
example. We should do more of that.
yeah, we should. That's awesome. Well, you may have kind of answered this, but other than your family, which is too easy of an answer, where do you find joy outside of work?
Well, this might be cheating because it involves my family, but I have two young boys, so we do spend time playing Lego, which is the stuff behind me. But
Nice.
they're both very into sports, and I coach some of their teams. So I love coaching, and it's so fun. And this year actually, my youngest son's soccer team was not so great. We had a number of people who had never played before, and I think we maybe won one game out of 10. But the amount of improvement in that group was fantastic. So that brought me a lot of joy, and it was a lot of fun. And
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. That's
yeah,
great. So, is there a brand that you've never worked on that you just totally admire and why?
it's a great question. I would say a brand that I see in my LinkedIn feed a lot, and I'm a frequent flyer, is United Airlines. I think I see a lot of parallels in what they're trying to do. They're rallying around a phrase, I believe it's good leads the way. And at Aon, we're doing something similar around better decisions. And there's just a lot of parallels between what they're doing. But I really like how they've realized they had some challenges around customer experience a few years back and have said, we're going to attack this head on and do meaningful changes in the customer experience. So it's not pretend, but then they're also infusing that into the brand and telling those stories and making it very real and grounded to what pilots are doing, what flight attendants are doing, what people are experiencing on the plane. So I think it's really good work, and I see it a lot, and I like it.
Yeah, and you know that if they're doing the operational work, to make fixes and tying that all the way through to marketing to be able to tell those stories and kind of get that out there, that there's a huge effort going on there, to make that happen. And are you a United frequent flyer?
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you kind of see it as a customer, like, a bit of an insider, but then also you kind of seeing what you see out there in the world. So cool.
Yeah, and for us, that's how we talk in our firm. And this might sound like a commercial, but we are trying to help our clients make better decisions, and we are working every day to tell those stories and bring them to life. It's a little bit harder when you have confidential client stories. You're not a consumer business, and I think that's why I look to them and sometimes even jealously wish it would be, we could tell even more stories like they can. But again, I think they're doing a great job with a similar type of challenge.
Awesome. So, last question is, I'm going to switch it up to be movie focused because I know you're a movie guy, but is there a movie that you would like to live in? Like, is there a movie that you saw and you were like, God, I would really like to be there?
Oh my gosh. Um, you kind of stumped me there.
Yeah,
I do. I don't know if I have the stomach to be a fighter pilot,
I was
but
about to say, come on, Top Gun.
I go to Top Gun. I think it's incredibly cool what those people do and inspiring and obviously dangerous as well. So bless them for taking that on. But yeah, probably something in the aeronautical field
Yeah,
and yeah, out in the real world flying.
yeah,
I don't
that's
mind being a passenger, but it would be cool to fly a plane someday. So
for
maybe that's
sure.
a
For sure. That's awesome. Well, is there a question you wish I would have asked as a part of the conversation that we can throw in here? Or did we do a good job?
yeah, no, I think we did a good job. I mean, what what I would maybe end with going back to people earlier in their careers is just being really intentional about what your first few moves are. And I did start my career at a startup, and it was great. I feel like I got 10 years of experience in 5 years, so there's value there. But now I'm working at a big company, and I think some people are afraid. They think, oh, it's a big old company. They're not innovative. They're moving slow. But actually, I think I'm an example of there's tremendous opportunities there. But then also to work at agencies and get that diversity of client experience.
Yeah.
And I think some of the best marketers kind of do jump around. I mean, I actually did that. I started at a startup, then I went to a small consulting firm, and then I went to a big company.
Yes.
So, maybe that's just one point that's kind of, be intentional about where you choose to work and then know why you're doing it. Maybe it's less money for more experience that I then leverage into more money, or maybe it's a slower trajectory of the career, but I can make more of an impact at a bigger company, for example.
I think that's so important. And I know that for a large part of my career, I just was so focused on what I call up and to the right. Like just everything had to be better title, more money, up and to the right, up and to the right. And I think that's not true, right? It's important sometimes to make a decision, to do something maybe a little different to go work for a startup and learn, what it's like to be nimble versus it taking 6 months to get an initiative through, or like you said. So I think being intentional about it, but not being afraid to try something different, because it will expand your brain and your mind, and you will grow. And it's those experiences that help you, end up where you are in a chief marketing officer role like yourself. So I think that's a great note to end on. And
Yeah,
with
for sure.
that, I will thank you, Alex, for talking to us today. It's been such a pleasure. It's interviewing you for the CMO Spotlight.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.